y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're going to be reviewing Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 16 or 2018, however you go about it. They didn't put the 16 after it, but it's the 16th Death Before Dishonor. So I guess they're going the way of WWE and taking the numbers away from their big shows. Let's jump right into it. The first match of the night, Jushin Thunder Liger versus Kenny King. This to me was an interesting matchup. Kenny King is someone that I think should have a better stake and a better promotion for what he is. I think he's fantastic. I think he absolutely could be a top level guy if he was presented as such. And Jushin Thunder Liger, who doesn't love him? He's one of the most beloved wrestling characters in America and Japan over the last 30 years. So we have a bona fide legend versus a solid wrestler who, like I said, I don't think for whatever reason gets his just desserts. This match, it kind of fell flat for me. A lot of it had to, and I'm going to talk about this as we go through the night because it was a reoccurring theme. A lot of it had to do with the crowd. And for the first couple matches, I thought maybe they mic'd the crowd poorly so you couldn't hear crowd noise. But we'll get into that when I get to that point where I realized it wasn't the crowd that was mic'd poorly. It was just they were reacting poorly. And I know I shouldn't let that affect my judgment of how I like a match, but it does add and take away something. Now, don't get me wrong. I've watched matches that I loved with no crowd reactions, and matches that I've hated that had thunderous crowd reaction. To me, it didn't feel like the fans were there for this match and a lot of the show, so it took it away. Also coupled with the fact that I don't think either guy brought their A game. I know Liger is an older man and he's been relegated mostly to multi-man tag matches or battle royals in Japan. To me though, for something like this, Kenny King should have stepped his game up and proven he could go on and do something good with this. Kenny picked up the win. I'm going to give the match a 2 out of 5, 5 being the best, of course. It was okay at best. We're seeing a little bit of the new attitude of Kenny King, so a little bit of character development, but for between the fact that it seemed like these two teams, or two guys, couldn't get on the same page, coupled with the fact of no crowd reaction, kind of made the match underwhelming in my opinion. Next up, our first championship match tonight, our first of 4. The Addiction, Frankie, Kazarian, and Christopher Daniels versus the Briscoe brothers, Jay and Mark. This was another match that the crowd were not into at all. This was a better match than the first match, and how could it not be? We have easily two of the top 10 wrestlers or tag teams of the last decade. Whether they're Bad Influence or The Addiction, Kaz and Daniels are amazing. The Briscoe brothers, what can you say? When you go down the annals of Ring of Honor history, the Briscoe brothers, even if they take up 2 spots, are going to be on the Mount Rushmore. These guys are Ring of Honor. They're what it's made of. And the really cool thing, and I love that they pointed it out on commentary, is 3 out of the 4 guys in this match were on the very first Ring of Honor show. So that's really cool that they mentioned that and brought it up. I like this match. I've seen better matches between the two. I don't know if the crowd got into their heads, because I would think it wouldn't. Kazarian's been wrestling for 20 years, Daniels for 25, the Briscoes for about 18 to 20 of themselves. So I don't think that the crowd would have affected them, but it did kind of feel like they did. a couple things. One of the things that the cameraman missed was Kazarian getting hit in the back of the head with a chair, which I only know from reading reports of people that were there live. So that might have been a big part of the match that got taken out, because Kazarian kind of did the outside thing, and I'm going to date myself a bit here. When the British Bulldogs lost the WWF at the time tag championships to the Hart Foundation, they did a similar angle with one of them getting injured and being on the outside of the ring so the heels could get over and take advantage of a 2-on-1 advantage, which is basically what they did here. I thought this was a serviceable match, by far not the best that these two have had with each other. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. The Briscoes retained the championship. I liked it. Like I said, I think I expect more from both teams, so maybe my high expectations, the improper camera shot, the bad crowd reactions, maybe that all put to my, not negative reaction to it, but detracted from me liking it as much. Now, next up, our second championship match of the night, Sumie Sakai versus Tenille Dashwood. Sumie's defending her Women of Honor championship. Much like the match before, I've seen these two wrestle better matches. Their tournament match for the Women of Honor championship was a better match to me. I like both of these wrestlers. I like Tenille. I like Sumie Sakai. I kind of feel like Sumie Sakai has run her course as Women of Honor champion. She's the inaugural champion. She's been champion for about 6 months now, so not that she's doing a bad job, but I feel that there's other wrestlers, other women's wrestlers that could carry the division further and build it more. No knock on Sumie. She's a fantastic wrestler and is definitely deserving of being the first Women of Honor champion, but someone like a Tenille who has a better name recognition, or Madison Rain, same case, or the person I thought should have won it in the beginning, which was Kelly Klein. I think any of those might help push the division further into the forefront and start more of the women's revolution coming into Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor hasn't had the greatest history with women's matches and all the way through their beginning. It was spotty at best up until this year, and now we're getting 1, maybe 2 matches if we're lucky on a card. And I think with the amount of women's talent that's out there, we could have a bigger, more robust, more defined division. And unfortunately, I think part of that is having someone that's a more recognizable person as the head person or the leader of the division. Sumie picks up the win in a weird way. She has the armbar on Tenille Dashwood, who was selling a shoulder injury the whole match. But instead of tapping or the ref stopping it, they had Tenille pass out from the pain, which, granted, it's a nod to a little bit of the old school wrestling. She didn't give up. Her body gave out. However, with MMA being there, we've learned, well, 2 things. First off, she was in the armbar for way too long. It was too long. If she was going to do this, she should have passed out quicker. The second thing is, your arm's going to break long before you pass out from the pain. So, I think they may have been better of using a ref stoppage here. I guess it's a little bit nitpicky, but to me, it was too hokey 80s. Now, if this was a choke or a triangle, something of that nature, something where you're being constricted, even a bear hug, where the sell is the fact that you're losing breath, yeah, then I could see the pass out being okay. But for her not to tap or not to have the ref stop it before she passes out kind of took away from the entire match to me. I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. And I know it's starting to sound like I'm negative on the show. And again, I'm mentioning it again, the crowd absolutely was not into this match either. This is the first 3 matches in a row that the crowd was completely dead on. There was a little bit of noise during the Addiction's introduction spiel and a little bit of a pop for Liger, but this match was completely dead. Which brings us to our 3rd championship match of the night. For the Ring of Honor Television Championship, Punishment Martinez defends against Chris Sabin. I thought this was a good match. I don't think with the build-up that they used that they presented this match properly. If this was a throwaway TV match, I probably would rate it higher than I'm going to, as you'll see. But part of what's built up is Chris Sabin is defending the honor of Alex Shelley, who just recently retired, and his Motor City Machine Gun's friend and tag team partner against Punishment Martinez. This should have been built up as more of a blood feud, a hatred angle, more of a gimmick where they are absolutely settling a feud instead of just a normal match. I did like the touch of the flamboyant entrance with Chris Sabin, with him having Bobby Cruz read off a whole spiel about him. I thought that was a nice touch. I thought it was a nice touch when Steve Corino did it too. Not to say that it's bad for him copying that, but I did like that. I mean, I've seen other wrestlers have done it, and it's always, to me, if it's used sparingly, and it's not every show, or every wrestler, or we don't see it for a few years, I think it helps get the cockiness of a character over. Punishment wins this match, which, again, a blood feud defending your best friend's honor. Maybe Sabin could have picked up the win here. I get what they did, because after the match, Punishment Martinez is laying waste to Sabin, and who comes out to make the save but Jeff Cobb. This is where I realized that it wasn't the crowd was mic'd wrong. It was the fact that the crowd was absolutely dead. Because they went apeshit for Jeff Cobb coming out. Jeff Cobb got a massive reaction from them. And we see him get in there. Punishment hits him with a chair, which he no-sells, which I love that spot. Because often we see a guy like Punishment Martinez or Jeff Cobb no-sell a chair shot from a little guy. But to no-sell it from one of the bigger guys in the company and Punishment Martinez, it really says something about how tough Jeff Cobb is. Especially to Ring of Honor fans that may not be familiar with him. So we're introducing that this guy is at least on the level of Punishment Martinez, if not tougher than him. And I like that they're getting more away from the occult parts of Punishment, and he's more just a badass fighter. I enjoy that, so there was that to enjoy the match. Cobb hits Punishment with the Tour of the Islands, which is a fantastic finisher. The match itself and everything, I'm going to give it a 3. I thought it was fun. Like I said, there were some things that detracted to me. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view match. It didn't feel like a special event match. It didn't feel like something that's going to end a feud. So that took away from it. Jeff Cobb and Punishment Martinez going further, going into the future, that's going to be really exciting for me. I think that's going to be a match that I'm going to love to see at some point. And hopefully at Final Battle or before then. Now coming off of that, we have a tables match with Bully Ray and Silas Young versus Colt Cabana and Flip Gordon. We've seen where Bully has basically bullied Flip, bullied Colt Cabana. He's brought Silas into the fold. We see in the promos that he says that Silas has basically gone soft, that Silas used to be the bully of Ring of Honor. So, I like the dichotomy here. I like what we have going on. I like that it's his specialty, the tables match. There's a lot of good in this, but a lot of it felt like there was some waiting around spots in here. Like, a lot of the stuff with Ian Riccaboni coming down to the ring, no knock on Riccaboni, I love him as a commentator, but it kind of felt like he didn't know what he was doing out there. And I don't know if maybe no one told him what to do or what the situation was, but it kind of felt clunky and forced at times. We see the first elimination being Colt getting eliminated, which leaves Bully and Silas versus Flip. They go after him. Bully and Silas eventually start fighting amongst themselves into confusion. Flip seems to turn the tables, but they go back on him. They go to throw Flip into a table, who does probably one of the coolest spots of the night, where he runs up the table and flips backward, which could have been an easy spot to blow because that table could have easily broke on him. Flip puts Bully through the table, which leaves us down to Flip Gordon and Silas Young. We have it go. The referee takes a bump. Bully Ray comes back in. Before Bully Ray comes in, Flip puts Silas through a table. Bully comes in, attacks Flip, moves Silas from the wreckage, lays Flip in. The ref comes to, and of course it looks like Silas wins. So Bully Ray and Silas Young pick up the win. There was stuff I liked about this. Again, the crowd died back down for this. Bully Ray pulled out as much heat as he could from them, but you could tell he didn't even get the normal amount of heat that Bully Ray would get, and he's a fantastic heel. He knows what he's doing. Probably as good, if not better, than anybody in the business. There were a few things that missed on this match, a few things that hit. Overall, and this plays into why I'm actually giving it the rating it has, is it didn't feel like a Ring of Honor match, but it shouldn't have felt like a Ring of Honor match. Bully Ray should have a match that the Ring of Honor fans hate, because he right now is standing for everything he hates. He's standing for the WWE Hall of Fame, for being a WWE star, for crapping on the young talent, the young bright talent. So that fit very well, which gave a little bit more to the rating than it normally would have. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Even with that, again, there was a little bit too much, felt like hurry up and wait sequences where people were just standing around. The whole thing with Riccaboni threw me off. Again, no knock on him, because I think he's one of the best announcers in wrestling, probably the best straight man in wrestling at this moment. So I did enjoy it. I know it doesn't sound like I did, but I can't really give it more than a 3. Next up, we have the Bullet Club versus Chaos in a 10-man tag. We have Marty Scurll, Hangman Adam Page, Cody, and the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, versus Chuckie T, Trent Beretta, Rocky Romero, Tomohiro Ishii, and Kazuchika Okada. This match was fun. This match was everything you would want to see out of a 10-man between these two. I kind of wish they put this on earlier, because the crowd really came alive for this. And maybe if they could have had this on maybe second or third in the show. And I understand with all the people involved that you really can't not put it this high in the show, if that makes sense. But this would have served as a really good hot opener or a hot second or third match to get the crowd going. There were parts where it felt like a train wreck in a good way. There were parts where it felt like a fast, high-speed chase. Everybody's going in and out. I thought the 2 stars of the match were Rocky Romero and Ishii. Rocky was flying all over the place, looking amazing, because Rocky is an amazing wrestler. And Ishii, he's so good, and so... I think he's undervalued in New Japan, and I'd love to see him come into Ring of Honor, and maybe they lend him to Ring of Honor. Just give him to him for a year and see what he can do. See if he can become Ring of Honor champion, if the fans will get behind him. Because I really think they will. I think he has that potential where he kind of is the guy that New Japan isn't really pushing on the American audience, but the American audience is wanting to have pushed on him, that they like this guy and that he's really good. Not taking away from anybody else in the match. I thought everybody looked great. To me, though, the two stars of the match were Rocky Romero and Ishii. Okada looked amazing. Marty looked amazing. Everybody that you would expect looked great in this match. Overall, a fun match. But I'm going to mention it because I got to be honest. It did not feel like a special match. It did not feel like a pay-per-view match. This felt like a match that you could see on any New Japan wrestling show. Not that that's a bad thing. That's a very good thing. They're very high quality. But we're talking about a match where either you bought it on Honor Club or you bought it through Fight TV. So this is a pay-per-view show. And you took a lot of your big stars that you could have used in pay-per-view spots. Marty Scurll, the Young Bucks, the NWA champion, Cody, former IWGP champion, Kazuchika Okada. And you took them and you put them all in this cluster. Which, again, no knock on the match. The match was really good. It's my second favorite match of the night, and we'll get into my favorite in a moment. I rather enjoyed it. I just felt like maybe there was better use of some of these guys. Maybe we could have seen a Cody versus Ishii for the NWA Championship. Okada versus Marty Scurll, Part 2. Page versus Ishii, which when they were in the ring together, oh my god, that was amazing. The Young Bucks versus the Best Friends, which we've seen a million times, but who cares? We could see it a million more. So, while the match was great, I think there would have been better use with some of the star power in this match. The Bullet Club team picks up the win. I give the match a 4 out of 5. Like I said, it's my second favorite match of the night. And before I forget, another thing that absolutely added to it was the amazing color commentary from guest commentator Nick Aldis, who during the match mentions that him and Cody are going to go for a 2 out of 3 falls match for the rematch for the NWA World Championship. A lot of what he said reminded me kind of like an old cocky heel would be, kind of like a Tully Blanchard, where you hate him, but he's not really lying. He's telling the truth. He did mention that instead of counting Cody out, the ref threw up an X. Or that Brandi got involved in the match, or that DDP got involved in the match. So, he's not giving false facts, but you still hate him because he's cocky, and he was amazing in the role. I think once he hangs up the boots for good, he could fit into that commentator role, and he would be fantastic. Which, Riccaboni did a great job. He was joined on commentary by Caprice Coleman, another very underrated color commentary guy. I thought Caprice did great. I think Riccaboni is amazing. I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I give it a 4 out of 5. Afterwards, Cody comes to the announce table, says he accepts the 2 out of 3 falls match, which we're going to see at the NWA 70th anniversary. I'm hyped for that match. It's the only match they've announced for the show with the actual participants, and I'm already hyped to watch that show. So, just amazing how they could do all that on a company that a lot of people, and a championship that a lot of people consider dead. Now the main event of the show. For the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship, Jay Lethal defends his title against Will Ospreay. Now, again, on paper, this was a really weird match because they're not in a feud. It's an open challenge answer, and this is a ring, like I said, a pay-per-view. So it almost felt like they took the specialness of this match away from it. Like, maybe it should have been Lethal versus Gresham again, or Lethal versus somebody else that they built a feud with. But that being said, even with that, and with the fact that I think they hurt themselves a lot, like Ring of Honor shot themselves in the foot a bit to me on this pay-per-view, because I feel like they lean too heavy on the fact that this is Ring of Honor and you're going to buy the pay-per-view because it's Ring of Honor, instead of giving us compelling storylines. This did not need that, though. This match was friggin' amazing. Will Ospreay has changed his style up a bit. He's bulked up a little bit. He's still flying around the ring easily and probably still one of the top 3 or 4 high flyers in the world. But he had more of a ground and mat-based attack to it. This match, to me, was his real coming out as a star that could be a star outside of the junior heavyweight division and could be looked at as a world champion. By the end of the match, I was starting to think, well, maybe Ospreay's going to win. When I went into this going, this match is dumb. There's no way they're going to let Will Ospreay win. So by the end of the match, when they do the false finishes, I'm on the edge of my seat thinking maybe, just maybe, they're going to throw a monkey wrench in. And I think the crowd kind of wanted to go that way. Because you see when the end of the match, when Lethal actually picks up the win, there was a little bit of a smattering of boos, which is really weird to hear Jay Lethal met with boos. So I think Ospreay did his part and won the fans over. I cannot say how much I like this match. When I think of the best matches of 2018, this is going to be on the very short list with Okada and Omega, this match, and a few others. But to me, I really, really love this match. I wish they would have built this up more, would have built a feud up to go with it so it would have held more prominence. But even without this, I give the match a 5 out of 5. After the match, we see the show of respect. Then we see some red balloons go up in the air, and TK O'Ryan and Vinny Marseglia hit the ring to attack. On commentary, they say that Matt Taven's in Mexico, but then we see a guy basically coming out looking like the Unabomber, and here's Matt Taven with a newly shaved head with a mohawk going because he recently lost his hair in Mexico. Hits Lethal with a belt, which is a Ring of Honor belt with a purple strap, and proclaims himself the real world champion. So I believe this is what they're going to go with going to Final Battle. Lethal versus Matt Taven, which, again, you start with a storyline. I thought that was an awesome end to the show. I thought the match was great. I think the extracurricular was great. I think bringing Matt Taven versus Jay Lethal is going to be another fantastic match. And it's going to be one where we question, will Matt actually beat Jay? So, to me, it sold better the next pay-per-view than it did this pay-per-view. So, to me, that hurt everything. Overall, the breakout stars of the night were Ishii and Ospreay. I would love New Japan to let Ring of Honor borrow these two guys and see what they can do with them, because let's be honest, I don't think either one of them is going to be the IWGP champion anytime soon, but either one of them could easily be looked at for the Ring of Honor championship. And I think it would help both of their careers, get them rejuvenated, and maybe even in New Japan. If New Japan sees how well they're getting over with the American crowd, maybe they'll give them both more of a push over in Japan as well. But that's just me. Could be just that I'm being greedy, and I would love to see these guys potentially when Ring of Honor comes around here. So that's probably why I'm thinking that in my head. But overall, I'm going to give the show a 3 out of 5. Very middle of the road. It did not feel like a pay-per-view. It did not feel special. The fans were absolutely terrible. They took away from the show. It didn't have a special feel to it. It felt more like a TV taping than a pay-per-view. Other than the the last two matches, nothing really stood out. Ishii and Ospreay absolutely shined. So did everybody in the last two matches, but overall, it was a very lackluster show. And I know a lot of it had to do with the crowd and the fact that Las Vegas, maybe they're getting Ring of Honor burnout because they've had several big shows in Las Vegas, and they've reacted better than this. So maybe they're burnt out on the product. Maybe we've seen where indie wrestling's hit its peak and now it's coming back down, with All In being the peak and now this being the downfall. Maybe it's just, maybe the crowd that they normally get got priced out of the building. I don't know. I don't know what the issue was, but all in all, I think it was a lackluster performance. I think Ring of Honor too heavily relied on their name recognition instead of putting on a great show with compelling storylines. But with all that being said, like I said, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Very middle of the road. I'd like to know what you think. Hit me up down here in the comments. Make sure you like and share this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ding that bell so you get the notifications whenever I drop a video. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my review of Death Before Dishonor.